Ahí va. Good. Esa.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, nice, nice.
I guess they just ran on the spots to put these things.
From Atlanta, Georgia to the new Hard Rock Stadium in Miami Gardens, back down to Key Biscayne to the old Miami Masters Tournament Stadium, and now Clearwater, Florida. Just like last year after John, Big John that is, Isner won his first ever Masters 1000 title in Miami last year, I'm back here to grandmother's house in Clearwater, Florida. The fill-in co-host, Charlie the cat, and some dog are here today. They're out and about and around. Maybe you'll hear them, maybe you'll see Mr. Charlie. Charlie's even learned how to open the back door. Today on Coffee Break Tennis, the fastest growing tennis talk show, like I said, I've been all over the place, and I've been all over the new Hard Rock Stadium. Me and my mother made it through the day and the night session, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Today on the show, we'll talk about my thoughts from that old guys versus teenagers semifinals, Final Four that we got to see yesterday. We'll talk about my preview, what I think is going to happen, what I think can happen, how Isner can win, how Federer can win in the men's final tomorrow. As you saw in the open of the show, I've actually got a chance to hit on one of the outside courts at the new Hard Rock Stadium, and we've heard so many things about how this court's playing. It's fast, it's slow. I actually get to hit on it a little bit. From the little bit I got to hit, I'll tell you what I thought about the actual court. And at the end of the show, I'll play for you a clip of something Roger Federer said in press, I think after the win over Medvedev, about Djokovic's loss here in Miami, and my thoughts on that very interesting quote from Roger Federer. All that and a little tiny bit more on today's episode of Coffee Break Tennis. Well, I hope it looks good on the camera. The sun is moving in and out of the clouds. At least it's not raining. Man, James Blake must hate the rain after this last week. So like I've been saying, I've been all over the place, and I got to see so many matches on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And what I can tell you from seeing all this great tennis in person is that Roger Federer's court positioning is probably the best weapon, the greatest weapon, the most powerful weapon I've seen of all the tennis I've seen. Also the variety he can put on the shot, but mainly that court positioning. You know, I got to see players like Nick Kyrgios, who was using a lot of variety against Borna Coric. Thought he could win that match. Of course, he had a mental issue and a meltdown, told a fan to go F himself, and then had a point penalty on a crucial break point on his own serve. I think that put him down 5-2, and he was toast. I got to see Francis Tiafoe not really able to hit through David Ferrer on the stadium court, and end up having to use a lot of drop shots on Ferrer, and eventually, you know, stay patient enough in the points to find ways to hit winners. I got to see one of the best three-set matches I've ever seen in my life with Tsitsipas and, of course, El Chapo. That match really had it all. It had
Everything. Brooms, scrunchies, screw heads, a shaved lion that looks like Mario Batali.
from those guys taking turns overpowering each other with just sheer firepower. Tsitsipas was really hitting the ball. Shapo, of course, hitting the ball extremely hard. Incredible serving in that match. And then sometimes, playing consistently. But one thing I took away from that match in particular was when it mattered most, like that final tiebreak in the third set, Shapo was able to just go for so much and somehow make it. In some ways, I felt like he got a little lucky. Against Roger Federer yesterday, that didn't happen when he tried to pull the trigger and just go huge with the firepower. He made way too many unforced errors and kind of gave it to Roger Federer in some respects. Of course, Roger Federer did play well. I got to see Felix Auger-Aliassime this week, and he did a beautiful combo of offense, defense, incredible movement, some pretty big serving for an 18-year-old guy, hitting some really big serves. And John Isner is really just playing his best version of tennis. He's got the great serve. He always has it. And it's, better than average this week, the serve, of course. I think, Federer's got 100 titles. John Isner's got, I think, 98 aces in Miami through, 5 matches so far. But also one thing I noticed about John Isner was that you really can't go too easy on him and wait for him to make a mistake or try to tire him out in the rally because he's going to hurt you. He's really looking to be offensive and very aggressive off the ground. He's also coming to net. He's playing pretty well at the net. And sometimes he'll go through little lulls. We saw it with Auger-Aliassime. At times, Isner was not playing very purposeful, not really playing pure all-out aggression, just some sloppy errors at times. And then other times, he's just absolutely ripping backhand up the line. We saw that last year when he won this tournament last year. We got to see the improved backhand from John Isner. Some of the backhands up the line Isner's hit this week, just absolutely, I can't remember which game, which point, but maybe the first set tiebreak, Isner just uncorked a backhand up the line on Felix Auger. So like I said, I've seen a good balance of play from Isner. He's making more errors, but needs to because he's playing so aggressive, and it's really paying off if he's trying to get a break or break back like he had to with Auger, or just making sure he locks down the tie breaks like what I saw him do with Bautista Agut. I got to see Bautista Agut beat Novak Djokovic. In fact, Mr. Goat back in Georgia, Mr. Goat via satellite remote has sent me some statistics that we're going to look at in a little bit. But first, let's look at the draw that I made. This is very interesting, isn't it? I had Federer in the final winning against John Isner. And I was so close to picking Bautista Agut to beat Djokovic again after beating him in January. And I just, for some reason, I said, you know what, I think Joker will get his revenge. These guys do it all the time. But I thought, you never know. It depends how Joker's playing. It could happen. And I had Isner beating Djokovic. Instead, Isner beat Bautista Agut, which I was there for that match. 2 tiebreakers. Great match. And what I really took away from that match was that Bautista Agut couldn't be too careful in the rallies, couldn't play too conservatively because Isner was going to get you. Isner is just looking, it's so confusing about this court. Like I said, I got to play on it a little bit. Let me talk about the court a little, then we'll get more into the stats and what I think is going to happen with the Federer-Isner match. The one thing I noticed the most, I got to hit with this 15-year-old girl. She's actually one of the top juniors. She's in the 16 and unders. I think somebody said she was top 5 in Colombia. And she was a pretty good player, and I got to rally with her a bit. And one thing I noticed, she was good, don't get me wrong, but I hit a couple slices that had so much action on them. This court's real gritty, real gritty. I could feel it in my feet just from moving around on the court, how grippy it was. And I could see a couple slices I hit just totally bamboozle her. And like I said, she's a very good player. She plays, like international tournaments. A couple slices I hit. And I managed to get so much action on those slices, just the cut on it, the ball stays low, the ball cuts and spins very violently, and it just seemed to totally throw her off. And I realized, okay, no wonder we see Federer slicing so much. I remember when I was watching the Federer-Medvedev match, I was there, and I think there was one rally where Federer, you might remember if you watched, Federer hit 10 slices in a row in a rally. One rally, 10 slices maybe, against Danny Medvedev. And yeah, it's working really well. That's going to be a big thing for me. Like I said earlier, we'd never know. They told us at the beginning of this tournament, we heard about how slow the court was. I was telling you, Daria Kazatkina was saying this court's pretty slow. I really like the court. We were hearing about how high bouncing it was. From watching it where I've been sitting, it didn't look like extraordinarily high bouncing. When I was playing on the court, I did notice a couple topspin forehands that Mariana, I think her name's Jimenez, A couple of the forehands she hit did seem to kind of jump up kind of high and be a little hard for me to contain on a couple of them when she really hit them good. But the main thing I noticed was the slice. The slice is so effective on this surface. And it probably was the same deal over at Indian Wells. James Blake said it himself that this court is almost identical to the Indian Wells court, but the weather conditions are very different. Another thing about stadium court, a couple days when I went out there, it was very windy. Inside the stadium court, there's no wind. If I can find the clip, I'll show you. There's like this, looks like sails from a sailboat on top of the stadium. You can see the wind blowing them, but you don't feel any wind inside that stadium. To me, that stadium feels like an indoor court, and we know Federer loves indoor courts. But if we look at the head-to-head, the last time John Isner and Roger Federer played, 2015, indoor court, Paris. Now it's a slow hard court, but this is, relatively slow, medium. Like always, Miami's always been medium, slow hard court. John Isner wins. Now John Isner, in 5 hard court matches, never broke Roger Federer's serve one time. Now, the Paris Masters, off the top of my head, 2015, I don't know how well the slice took to the Paris Masters indoor court, but John Isner beat Federer 7-6, 3-6, 7-6. A couple of tiebreakers. I think Isner has played and won 9 or 10 tiebreaks this week in Miami now, through 5 matches. So don't get me wrong, this is a match that Roger Federer could lose. And Isner is playing very well. I said earlier that John Isner played kind of loose, sloppy points at times with Felix Auger-Aliassime. Then other times he played the way I saw him when he beat Bautista Agut in the 2 tiebreak sets. Just court slow enough for him to set his feet and look to just go total offense, just blasting ball. It's really fun to see. I was happy to hear Federer say he enjoys watching John Isner. I think it was Brad Gilbert doing the on-court interview. He cut Federer off as Federer was about to say, I know most people think watching Big John is kind of boring, but he said that it's like watching a soccer, like a penalty kick, a shootout. Federer's going to be the goalie tomorrow. And I think Federer will be pretty good at being the goalie. This was an interesting clip here. Let's take a listen to this. Marcia was so nice to put this on the Twitter, this clip of Big John Isner talking about facing that chip return. Because a big question people have is, Isner's been serving so well. How's Federer going to get that back in play? But take a look at this. This is John Isner talking about that.
That chip return gave Kevin some trouble. Kevin's a big guy, and Roger, with that chip return, it's something that he can do in his sleep. He just gets it down low, and he gets it short. And he almost forces his opponent to come in, and then at that point you have to hit a great approach shot and a good volley to win the point, because he's going to have a look at a pass if you make the shot, and it's very difficult to do. So if I do play him, maybe there's some things tactically, especially on second serves, that I'll try to avoid. Maybe not go into his backhand as much, but he can do that, as I said, in his sleep.
So that's my big question is, it's not my big question. My big question is actually, how is Isner going to deal with the Federer slice? Federer's been using it against guys much shorter than John Isner. To make a big guy like John Isner get down for that slice, and like I said, that girl, if I have a picture, I'll put it up, I hit with the 15-year-old girl who's so good, who's a really impressive player. Look how short she is. She didn't like the low slice that I hit her a couple times. John Isner is, I'm sure, like 1.5 feet taller than her. He's really not going to like having to get down for that low slice, and so much action on the ball too. But let's take a look. My big question is the slice, but a lot of people ask me, what is Federer going to do with the serve? And I think Federer will be able to get enough in play. You got to remember, it's not about like hit the big serve for a winner. It's get it back in play to where you can at least be close enough to neutral to then get into the rally with Big John. Now, like I said, I noticed with Bautista Agut, who rallies with the best of them, there were a lot of times when Bautista Agut, I could almost feel the pressure that he must have been feeling, because you don't want to make an unforced error, right? You don't want to just give the point to Big John Isner and then be down a break and having to break back against the biggest serve ever. And one of the best serves. It's not just that he has so much power, but he can hit spots very well. He can hit, slice. He can hit kick. His kick is very good. The John Isner second serve is very fast, very high. And I think maybe we heard right there from John, that's what John's going to do to stop Federer from getting a lot of serves back in play, is kick high to the forehand maybe Although, I don't know, will that work? Kick high the backhand, will it work? It might work. It'll be interesting to see how John plays first and second serves to Federer. I mean, obviously he's going to try to big bomb aces a lot. He's going to rev it up a lot. He's going to try to hit spots a lot. I noticed against Bautista Agut, when he was in trouble, he would take a little pace off the serve sometimes, but with break points, that's when you would see him hit just massive aces. So it's going to be so interesting to see. But like I said, let's look at some of these serving stats from Mr. Big John Isner. So what I noticed with Bautista Agut is Isner was making some unforced errors when he was uncomfortable. Some unforced errors just because he was purely just playing super aggressive, and a good bit of winners. Enough winners to get his mini breaks in the tie breaks, especially break back when he needs to break back. Did so with Felix Auger, although Felix Auger really kind of gave the break back. 3 double faults for John Isner at that. I think he served 5-4 in the first set, Felix Auger. So if we look at the stats here, Isner 32 winners on 23 aces, but really that's 21 aces on 2 doubles. And 6 forehand winners on 18 forehand unforced, 5 backhand winners on 3 backhand unforced. Big John Isner able to get 76, this is a big number, returned serves. 76% of Felix Auger-Aliassime serves that went in the box, Isner was able to get back into play. Auger-Aliassime only able to get 65% back in play. Now, let's take a quick look at some Federer numbers. Federer against El Chapo able to get 80% of the serves back in play. Now, Chapo was able to get 78%. I really thought Chapo had a better chance at winning against Fed than Auger-Aliassime against Isner. I thought, after seeing the way Chapo played Tsitsipas, I thought maybe he could do it, but way too many unforced errors from Chapo, and just being on the whole "he's my idol" thing kind of feels like he played him like he played the legend rather than just playing the player across the net from you. We've heard players say that, some version of that over the years. It was so 78% in play from Chapo. That's a great number on the Federer serve, but he wasn't able to really take advantage of that with so many unforced errors. And of course, like I said, Federer's court positioning and variety, the biggest weapon of all. So many players have to go very big and risky. Let me finish my point from earlier. I never finished it. And this is a big one. This is all I could think about when I was watching Bautista Agut and John Isner. Was Bautista Agut must have felt this pressure that I can't go for too much and make unforced errors and just give it to Isner. But I also, I got to hit some winners on this guy, or I got to go big offense and take it away, because as soon as Isner has a chance, he's going to go and attack me. And combined with the big serve, that's working pretty well for Isner. But what I prefer is Roger Federer, who can just take the ball so early that he doesn't have to go too big and risky. He can hit the ball kind of average. It's like his rally ball. And he does this all the time, but when you see it in person, you really see it, you really feel it. Federer is able to take the ball so early that he's able just to play kind of average rally balls, but it feels like to you, the opponent playing Federer, that it's coming pretty hard at you. It feels like the ball's on you all of a sudden. There were times where Felix Auger backed Isner up and made Isner feel uncomfortable. There were times where, real quick, look at this. Here's a serve. I screenshot it as it landed. It looks like the ball's doubled, so the ball on the right is really more where it landed. And this was like a 118 would be the previous serve. I think this was a fairly big serve, but it goes right into where Felix, you can see him, he's just loading up on his left foot, and he can just hit that two-hand backhand deep into the court. And a lot of times, I saw Felix Auger get breakpoint opportunities on John Isner just from floating, nothing special, just floating the ball deep and kind of pushing Isner back, or robbing Isner of time from when Isner missed his spot. Auger was able to just redirect that Isner power right back at him deep into the court. John Isner, in that clip we played earlier, talked a lot about Federer's probing short backhand slice return, and he can bring you into the net, and you got to hit a great approach, you got to hit a great volley. So, Federer, when you're rushing, like we saw with Radu Albat, when he came to the net, and we've seen it in the past, who do we see it? The Dirty Dan did it to him at the Australian Open a little bit. When you come to the net and attack Federer, he gets a little uncomfortable sometimes because he's not used to having to come up with passing shots right away like that with a little pressure. But when Federer brings you into the net, he's a lot more comfortable passing you. But Auger-Aliassime, what he did was like a deeper return a lot of times, and Isner just made some sloppy errors, didn't get his feet set in time. He's not expecting his serve to come right back at him. But I also think part of this is John Isner, you're playing a teenager in a semifinal. Before this tournament, John had said that he knew that by the numbers, he's not going to defend his title. The odds are he's not going to go back to the Miami final 2 years in a row and win it 2 years in a row. Now, credit to him, he somehow did it. He's back in the final. Of course, I knew. That's why I put it in the draw. So to be in that position, a semifinal against an 18-year-old who's never been in a Masters semifinal, there's going to be a unique pressure on John Isner there to think like, geez, I can't, screw this up. This is my match to win. So maybe Isner is missing some spots, making some errors, getting uncomfortable at times. But when it was really crunch time, when he had to break back, the first set, when he had to break back, he got 3 double faults to help him out. I think he played maybe 1 good point. But in the second set, when he had to break back, you saw Isner attacking and going for the shots. When he felt the pressure, like, okay, I got to do it now, like he's done all tournament long, every time he's been in a tiebreak too, he's really able to go offensive. Against Federer, just like we saw with Dominic Thiem, a lot of players, we see it with Serena Williams too, a lot of players will have this feeling that if I don't go for it and play very high risk, high reward tennis, I'm going to lose for sure. I know I'm going to lose playing normal, so I got to try this. And when they feel like this is the only way and they swing freely, sometimes you see it work out. With Big John Isner, a lot of firepower, he could maybe do it. I could see Isner winning the match like that. I can also see Federer winning two tight tiebreak sets. But Isner's played so many tiebreakers, and he's feeling so good winning so many tiebreakers. That could work in his favor. It could work against him too. He could think like, well, eventually I'm not going to be able to win a freaking tiebreaker. And who better than Roger Federer to be the person who stops me from winning all these tiebreakers at this tournament? So anyways, you can see in this picture, the spot is in the wheelhouse of Auger-Aliassime. My big point here is that is Isner going to miss the spot as many times against Federer? Maybe he'll feel a little more loose and a little more, hey, I just got to go for it. I just got to swing for the fences, and we'll see a special performance like when he beat Djokovic, maybe 2012, I think, at the Indian Wells. When Isner beat Djokovic, and then, of course, Federer beat him right after that in the final. So big question for me is, how many serves will Federer be able to get back in play? We know the top players, Federer, Nadal, Djokovic, when they get the first serve back in, they win a lot. Look against Big Kevin Anderson. Now, Big Kevin Anderson has a good serve. John Isner's serve is better, for sure. Especially the John Isner second serve, the kick. Maybe the kick high, the backhand with all the action that Mr. Isner can put on it, maybe that'll be effective enough. Look at this, Federer, Anderson only able to get 61% of the Federer serves back in play. Federer able to get 82% of the Anderson serves back in play. 80% off of El Chapo, who's been serving very big. I want to know, what kind of number are we going to see from Federer? If he gets anywhere near that 80% of Isner's serves put back into play, it's going to be straight sets win for Federer. Unless Federer just has some major lapses on his own serve and gets broken a lot and just disaster strikes, and then he has to get those 80% back in play just to get a couple breaks and get the tie breaks. Maybe he plays tight in the tie breaks. But I just don't feel like Isner or Federer will let another final slip like he did against Dominic Thiem. It's hard for me to see him not seizing the day. Plus, he's never been broken by John Isner ever on a hard court. Why think it would happen here? John Isner has looked relatively comfortable setting up and hitting big strike tennis. Felix Auger-Aliassime was able, I don't know if it was more nerves or what Felix was doing. I mean, I will say he floated a lot of those returns deep, was rewarded with many break points. Also saw a lot of those break points disappear with aces. Now, let's take a look at some stats for the whole tournament, and then we'll talk about the thing Federer said about Djokovic, and we'll get out of here. We'll let you watch your match, because you might be watching this tomorrow right before Federer and Isner play. Oh, what fun it'll be. Combined stats, Isner through 5 matches. First serve in 73%, winning 82% of those serves. That's going to be tough even for the great Swiss maestro. Second serve win percentage, 56% from Isner. That's pretty good. When you combine that 56 with 82, that's going to do a lot of damage. What is Roger doing through 4 matches? Right here I see, and this is not counting the match with Chapo where the serves in were very low, just like with Anderson. So let's take that number down a little. Federer's first serves in are going to be more like 60% at this point. First serve win 78, second serve win 61. Federer, greatest second serve of all time maybe. Break points saved, very impressed by that, 70% from Federer. Break points converted, not bad, knowing the trouble that Federer's had with break point conversion over the years. 38%, pretty good. Total serve points won, 73. Total return points won, 43. That's because of those numbers we see from Federer where he gets 80% of serves or higher, like we saw with Kevin Anderson, 82. 80% plus returns back in play. If Federer can do that against John Isner, he's going to win a high enough percentage to find a break or at least win some tiebreakers. I feel very good going into, I'm noticing that comment below. That guy doesn't like service stats. He thinks they're insignificant. Doug Bennett there. You post these stats just to piss me off. So, big question here. What do I think's going to happen? I could see straight sets Isner, 2 tie breaks. Could happen. I could see Federer finding a break, winning something like 6-4, 7-5, 7-6. I could see this match going 3. I mean, anything can happen tomorrow. Which Isner are we going to see? Is it going to be Isner swinging freely? Or are we going to be like a Dominic Thiem moment that we just saw? Dominic Thiem playing his normal way, loses the first set. It was closer than the scoreline looked, but he lost. So are we going to see John Isner just loosen up and let the serve flow, just smash big serves, smash big forehands, smash big backhands? I saw him do it enough this week to know that he's perfectly capable of it. Will he miss a lot? If sometimes you play like that and they just don't go in. Shapo tried to do it and he hit a million unforced errors and Federer won pretty easy. That could easily happen with Isner. What if they all go in? Federer has enough game to rise to the occasion and he starts playing like a crazy man and he still wins. Anything can happen tomorrow. If I had to bet my life on it, I'm going to go with Roger Federer like I would almost all the time. But we know, Federer doesn't have as many Masters 1000 wins as Nadal and Djokovic, but he's got 50 now. This is his 50th final. We've seen a lot of finals where Federer loses, kind of like, how the hell did that happen? Could happen again tomorrow. John Isner is doing a lot of things that could help that along. He's doing a lot of good stuff out there on the court. This is going to be a great match. I'm very excited to see it. I've been more interested in watching John Isner play than ever because he's doing so much. He's played long enough now to know how he has to win. And it's interesting to watch this guy. I like to call it big giraffe tennis. He knows that if he runs around too much, he's just going to be exhausted. Kind of like Federer. He doesn't want to get involved in long points. Well, Isner, even more so. He's in his 30s. He's freaking like 7 feet tall. He's got to play that giraffe tennis. He's got to go for big shots. Got to take the net, storm the net sometimes. And he's got to serve tremendous, just incredible serving. So it can be a lot of fun. I think we're going to get a very awesome match tomorrow. And how cool is it to see Roger Federer after we hear, so many bad things, to see him in the final at the first edition of the new Miami tournament. Anyways, I got Federer winning in 2 tight sets, maybe 2 tiebreakers tomorrow. Hopefully not 3 sets. If it goes 3, anything can happen. And if John Isner can keep winning tiebreaks, he could win in 2 tight tiebreak sets too. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens tomorrow. Look out for the slice. How does Federer use the slice, and how does Isner deal with it? And how does Isner deal with Federer's block return, this beautiful backhand block return? Is Isner, like he said in that clip we played, is he going to just start hitting serves at the forehand a lot? How's that going to work out? A lot of questions. We'll get to know the answer tomorrow. I'll play this quick clip for you of Federer talking about Novak Djokovic, saying stuff going on off the court distracted him, and that's why he lost to Roberto Batista Agut.
A lot going on, regardless of ATP politics or not, in the life that Novak or me or we live in. I want to say that there's always stuff going on. So from that standpoint, it's nothing new, but sometimes it can get a bit much and you get tired of it, or you get tired of having an injury, or tired of, I don't know what it is. Maybe there's negotiations going on with a sponsor, with management, I don't know what. I mean, all that stuff can sometimes take some energy away from you. Yeah, he's not the only one. I've had that in the past too, but, I think it's normal. It's not an excuse, it's just a fact.
It's not an excuse, it's just a fact. That is freaking incredible. Incredible. Whew. Well, thanks for watching. There's the music. We're going to get out of here. I've had so much fun here at the new Miami. I went to the old Miami. If I have time, I'll pop in little clips so you can see. I think look out next week. We'll be back either Monday or sometime next week. We'll talk about what happened with Isner and Federer in the final. We'll talk about what we expect from the clay. And we'll talk about the old Miami versus the new Miami. I went to the old Miami many times. Happy to be here for the first ever new Miami. It has its pros and cons. Overall, I think it's a good thing. And the old Miami, it's still there. They just abandoned it. It's very interesting to me. I've read that they might blow the whole thing up. It's definitely really not being used. It's like a freaking ghost town. It's pretty crazy. A lot of people have asked me, why do the stadiums look empty? We'll talk about all that stuff either Monday or sometime next week, whenever I get a chance. Thank you for watching, and geez Louise, enjoy the match tomorrow. See ya!